In the first proper episode of this series, I sit down with Charlotte. Charlotte's a freelance designer. She goes by the name of Creative Wilderness. We talk about running an ethical business. We talk about anti-hustle and minimalism, as well as finding high-quality leisure. And carry on watching till the end of the video to get some actionable extras, some little bits of advice that I think Charlotte can pass on to you to help you out, something that you can put into practice.
So I'm Charlotte and I run Creative Wilderness, which is an ethical branding and design agency. And I love working with ethically minded businesses. So they're not always ethical businesses and sustainable businesses, but quite a lot of my clients are kind of in that world. But generally, I guess it's people who care a little bit more about just making a profit. Independent businesses have mainly been the ones that I've come to. Yeah. And doing little extra things with the community where I can help and giving back in small little actions, I think is kind of the thing that I pride myself on doing.
Okay, what got you started in that? What was
in the whole design bit, or just general?
Yeah, kind of the design, and then why that changed to.
Well, I was trained as a musician, and then I wanted to be an indie rock star when I first started. But then I guess confidence, and I realised it was quite cutthroat and quite a hard industry for me. So randomly, I think as a musician, you do your own posters and you create. So I just learnt Photoshop to do that. And then I finished uni and got a job at a newspaper editing photos. But I was always jealous of the people designing the adverts. So I managed to get into that kind of department, but at the same time I set up a zine in Manchester called Geek with 3 E's, and that was kind of bringing together illustrators and poets, and we also had a bit more of a social commentary going on, and then through that I got a job at an advertising agency because I did that, and then had a bit of time out working again as a musician, and then did a bit of teaching, and then after teaching, I guess that was maybe the making a difference thing, because there was a bit of a burning desire in me when I was designing. I always felt I wasn't really making a difference, and I didn't really enjoy working in the corporate environments, and I used to kind of always have campaigns about like turning your computers off at night and not using paper, plastic spoons to make tea. So there was always like a bit of an undercurrent when I was working at places. So then I went freelance, and then I just decided I wanted to do my own thing, but make it really like, what am I passionate about? And I really did want to make a difference. So I think it was kind of putting that out there as my brand, and then it attracted the right people, I suppose, and then it's kind of grown from there.
The music thing then, has that died away completely, or does that inform anything?
It's weird. I've had a bit of a crisis about it, because this is the first time in my life that I'm not really playing in a band or making music, but I don't feel bad about that, and I'm a bit scared. But I don't know if it's because my business is fulfilling me and I want to explore kind of art a little bit more and doing other things, that maybe, yeah, but I am beating myself up a little bit about it, because it's kind of something that you've always done. I've been like playing music since I was like the age of 8, I think, and being in bands. So yeah, maybe it'll come back to me.
I'm going off topic already, but that's something that I've been really thinking about recently, is how difficult it's been to just do, like, because my job is also something that I really like, but how difficult it's been to actually just do the thing that I thought I really liked. So making videos, when I'm not doing the things that were my hobbies before and were the things I liked before. So like I like making stuff out of wood and things like that, and not doing that makes doing my job harder, I think, just because like I don't get that time to like switch to something different. When you're working with your hands, like music's pretty similar. And what music do you?
I play saxophone and the bass guitar, but bass guitar is like, if you're not in a band, I don't play. Whereas saxophone, you can play. You can play on your own. But yeah, no, I think I've been trying to put more creativity into my projects, so when I can like draw stuff or hand draw things, so that it doesn't feel like I'm just in front of the computer all the time. But I think it's really interesting. I think we do need to feed ourselves with other types of creativity to stay inspired.
So kind of off topic already, but but it's a good one to talk about. Yeah. So you said about ethical design.
Yeah.
You have you're positioning yourself as like an ethical business. What does that mean, especially when it comes to like a service, as opposed to like, it's kind of obvious what it's going to be. Like if you start up a company that's like doing recycled paper or something like that, that's an obvious product. The reason for being ethical, the method of being ethical is really clear in that.
Yeah.
How do you think that works with the service industry?
It's a little bit harder, I suppose, as a service-based business because it's not as obvious to people. So I kind of tried to look at, all right, what can I do? So I made sure like the banking that I'm with is ethical, and if I get anything printed, it's with a company called Hatch, and they're like vegan and vegetarian society approved, and they plant trees to carbon offset. So like my business cards are on like brown craft paper, and then I try not to get anything printed. So most stuff's digital. The way that I deal with people. Using local independent businesses and coffee shops for meetings is a really good thing that you can do. Cycling when I can and getting the train. And then I do like a pledge called the Ethical Move, where you basically say that you're going to do fair pricing. You're not going to do things that a lot of people do, like, oh, you've got one day left to get, buy this. Like it's kind of like a not a very ethical way of doing business. So I think the way when you're a service-based business, it is everything that you do. So I've said about, if someone comes to me and I really think like that their money would be better spent on something else and not on design. I had a musician and I said to her, look, you're probably better doing gigs, buying equipment, as opposed to putting your money into this, because she'd got a bit of a business loan. So I think that's about being ethical. It's like considering the person you're working with. I mean, I could have taken the money, and that's really not fair. And I think that's the problem with the world, is people are just taking the money. So it's like thinking about the person that you're working with and making sure that you're making a difference with them. And it's about being really, really fair, I think, and honest, and not overselling, because I see it a lot of time. I think from working at bigger agencies, I could see how clients were treated, and sometimes I'm not sure how ethical it was. So I think it's always remembering that that's a human being that you're working with, and try and care for them. And then another side of giving back is I've done a few like organised events, like a litter pick in Stockport, and I do a group called Conscious Entrepreneurs, where we do monthly business support sessions for independent businesses, ethically minded people. Some people are just setting up and they need some help. So that's been a really good thing. And then I'm looking into now, I want to donate. The first year I really didn't have enough profit to do it, but now I can donate a bit of my profits to some type of tree planting charity that's in the local area. So I'm just researching some options now. So they're kind of things you can do. You can do little things or bigger things. But small things, I think, are way to start.
That's kind of like the two sides of being ethical. There's like ethical in sustainability, in like how you treat the environment and the world around you, but then there's also how you are a business person as well. So you're talking about being ethical when it comes to like working with other people. That's really interesting. Is that scary, like having to think about that and like maybe turn people away? Because as a small business, you are when you're trying to get as much work as you can in a way, that's kind of how small businesses go, especially at the start. Is that scary then, having to potentially turn people away because they don't fit?
I think because I'm in the whole world of branding, so I understand about how you want to really present your brand to attract the right people. So I think luckily I've not really had to turn that many people out. It's more that they haven't quite got the budget, I suppose. They're a very small business, but or I think we've met up, and if it's not quite right, I have had to sort of say maybe I'm not quite the right fit and recommend someone else, because my process is really collaborative. So I never tell people or anything like that. It's kind of like I feel like that person's got the answers about their business. It's just a case of asking the right questions and working with them to visually represent what's going on in their head. So if that fit isn't right, it's not going to work for me. And I think I'm big on that, using your intuition, which is quite hard for us because we're so logically trained in our society. But you know it when you like click with someone and the project just goes really smoothly and it's great and you're all both on the same page. So I think as you have a project that's gone the opposite, you kind of pick up those signs. And yes, of course, if there was a business that came to me and their ethics are really bad, I would have to say no, because you can't say that you're ethical and not be. I'd rather go and do a day freelancing. I thought I'd rather go and freelance somewhere and just do a day rate, like a random agency, than probably have to compromise on what I do, I think. yeah.
Fair enough.
Put it out there now. I can't get back at that.
It's one of them things. It's something that I try and do, and like you say, those kind of people don't really come to you, but it's something you still have to like think about, and you're like, oh no, what will I do? I mean, I'm prone to worrying about things that aren't probably ever going to happen, but like, yeah, what if? And you know, there's a lot of companies who are using branding to like greenwash their what they do. Like I think is it Shell or BP recently have just come a little bit under fire for doing that. And obviously they went to and maybe they've got branding in house or whatever, but they obviously went to someone who was gonna sell them as green or ethical, and someone's got to kind of live with that idea of like, oh, I'm the one who's done that for sure. Yeah, I'm the one doing the propaganda. But yeah, and that that kind of leads on to the next thing, is something you mentioned. I can't remember. I saw that you'd mentioned it, but chasing endless growth is something is like not that's what you want to do. The fact that you want to, that's not like something that's in your plan.
Yeah, it's a guy called Paul Jarvis, who wrote The Company of One, and he does like weekly letters and a great podcast. And it was, I think, a lot of the business advice, you listen to your podcasts and then there's people out there, and some of it, I just felt like, ugh, about it. And then I came across him and had the book, and I was like, God, this is like exactly what I imagine, because I don't want to work 15 hours a day. I want to have a camper van. I want to work less, live more. I guess I'm a bit of a hippie, so I kind of embrace that. And yeah, I think when you're happy with simple pleasures in life, you don't really need a lot of money. But he talks about staying small as businesses and not growing because you think that's what you're meant to do. You can grow, but you can just grow inside, or you can grow in the way that you work, but it's not like getting more clients, because sometimes it gets out of control and you have less control on the way you're running your business and the impact it's making, and there's less of a personal feel. So I think a few people have said that to me, like, oh, why don't you employ people? And then I was torn, and they were like, well, what's going to happen in 5 years? And I was like, oh gosh, I've not thought about this. And then I started thinking about it, and I'm not going to say no, but I really like that it's me in a way, and I can I'm in control with exactly what I do, and I'm not worrying that another person might not have the same values as me. So I think that's the whole staying small and intentional, as opposed to like growing, and again growing with profits. So I think I'd rather take on less projects, but then really do great work for them, and for me, creativity's, I enjoy doing that, and I do it for free really. So I think I'd rather just spend more time if that happened, if you kind of start getting more money and that type of thing, or giving a bit more of it away.
There are other ways to, not grow, but there are other ways to feel like you're making progress in your business. And I like that idea. You just sort of mentioned like if you are earning more money, instead of like just finding more ways to make more money from that, scale back the amount of things you do. Like if you can live off the amount of work that you can do in a couple of days a week, then why not do that? Like why go and push for the the employees and turn yourself into a manager basically? Yeah.
And he has great stories about it might have been Butter or one of those type of companies, and the guy who founded it basically, he was like, oh, we're too big, and then he scaled back and went small again, because I think you have to just remember, why did I do this in the first place? And if that is for you to have freedom and a really good work-life balance, and to make a difference, because you need a bit of time to do those extra things. So I have things I'd love to do for free and volunteer more, but I can't yet. But obviously then that would be my aim, is to kind of have a bit more time to dedicate to other causes. And I suppose that's about growth. It's like a personal growth and what you want to achieve in life. But it's nothing wrong if making money is what makes you really happy, and you're like, go for it. But for me, I guess it doesn't. So that's my thing with the growth. And we do need people who are entrepreneurs and, employing staff, because they're giving people jobs, and that's an amazing thing. So I'm not against that type of growth, but I think it's whatever feels right for you. And I think some people push themselves because they think it's what the growth that they should be doing, when actually they should just like listen to what they want and not shy away from that.
That's it. It should be about kind of finding what you want from it, because some people set up businesses because they want to manage people. Some people really like managing, and that's fine. Like, it's just not for everyone.
Yeah.
And if you find yourself as a creative going into a job, you know, a company that you've built yourself, and it turns into something that you're not happy with, well, then why are you even doing it anymore? Either get out or dial it back, like you said. So personal connections and having people come and sit in a room together, because there's plenty of space out there, you know, Facebook groups and things like that, where people can talk to each other and can find communities. Why is it that you think getting people in a room together is like the way you want it to go?
I think it's just something really powerful about all these people in a room together, and you can't beat face to face. And I think everyone knows that. And obviously we have these tools, but the connections you make online are great. But when you meet that person in real life, it's like even better. So I think that was the main reason to set it up. And I've personally found, and Daria, who I also set it up with, that traditional networking, you're told to go to networking, and it just felt really like everyone's just coming here to hand out a business card because they want work, and it just felt wrong. So we wanted to set, it's kind of anti-networking, where you go and you learn and you support each other and you grow together, and you can help out someone else who might be having a problem. And it's kind of like sharing all that, and then you never know when it's going to come back, or the community might help out, someone might be struggling. And I think it was creating something that really meant something. And then the very first session, people going, can you set up a Facebook group and this? And we were like, no, because we don't want it to be, we don't want more, we've got so much noise in our life, digital noise, we don't want to be another part of that noise. And we thought if people just come once a month, they've got to save up what they want to say, like, whereas on a Facebook group you can just put whatever out there. So we thought by just having that time, like, you've got a small pocket of time, so you've really got to make it important and intentional, and it's not going to be noise, it's actually going to be something that's of value to everyone. So I think that was part of the reason. And again, that's about staying small, so we don't want really more than 20 people coming, because we don't think that if it gets too big, it won't have that feel of it being like a small supportive group. At the moment, everyone can just talk and they feel comfortable, and we've had some really powerful sessions where people have gone, gosh, I've never spoken about that, I've never shared that. So it's a bit like therapy, I suppose, for people. Yeah, it is quite therapeutic, yeah.
There's a couple of points in there, the fact that you're keeping it small so that people can be heard, because I've definitely been part of those Facebook groups where you're like, you join, you get a little bit out of it, and then you're like, as stuff's being added on there, you're losing like bits of information, or you're losing your voice in the crowd, because there's so many people adding new stuff all the time that you just completely get lost. So having like 20 people in a room is a great way to not get lost in that. But also the other thing you said, building personal connections. So I think seeing someone in person and just having that little bit of like back and forth, we get so much from that, or we feel like we get so much from like seeing someone in person, and it takes away like the fear of being misunderstood a little bit. So I often feel like I get misunderstood when I'm like writing emails and stuff, because I don't know, tone doesn't come across, and I'm a little bit sarcastic, and that comes across in person, but it doesn't in emails, and so I'm always worried about reaching out to people over email. So for me, coming to that event was great, because I got to speak to a load of people in a room. They understood me. They, were like, that's where I asked you to be on this, and I don't think I've had the courage to ask people to do stuff or to be part of stuff if I've not met them. So that is a great event.
Yeah, and I think we love it because I'm not a big fan of small talk. I am an introvert. Like, people are like, oh, you seem quite confident. I am introverted as a person, but I've learned how to get over it. But I don't like posting. I'm always like, oh, I don't like posting stuff. It's been quite hard to overcome that, because I know that you need to do it for your business. So I think having it's where we actually have like meaningful conversations. So it's not like, oh, what do you do? It's actually like, gosh, I feel really bad about this, or I'm really struggling with this. So then at the end, you already feel quite connected to a person, because they've shared some intimate details about what they're struggling with, or their emotions. And that's what I really like about it, because I mean, how many people you have small talk with, you don't really, I think when you share something about yourself that is from the heart, that's when you make a connection, as opposed to, like the normal, no, not everything's bad, but that's what I've found with normal networking has been pretty hard.
Yeah, and I think it does speed up getting to know people. So, like you say, small talk's fine, and you'll get to know someone over, if you see them every day for a couple of weeks, you'll get to know them through small talk. But if you want to get to know people quite quickly in a room and get people to feel comfortable with each other, having that structure that you guys have put in place at that event really does help. I think so. I really appreciate it. I was sad that I couldn't come to the last one.
Yeah, no, we had a few people asking where you were.
That's good to know.
Where's that lovely video, man?
So minimalist anti-hustle. So what I was thinking when I wrote that was kind of like what we were talking about before, and like not chasing growth.
Yeah.
But the reason I wanted to speak to you about this is because when on the last Conscious Entrepreneurs that I was at, you talked about, or you briefly mentioned living in a van, and I was like,
van life.
That's like the sort of pinnacle of the minimalist, like anti-hustle.
I don't mean permanently in a van.
No,
I mean, I've watched the YouTubes, and yes, I know, because I do yoga, so I was like, well, I know I could do it outside. Yeah, there's all these reasons why, I don't. But I think I've always been very attracted to minimalism. I remember having a flat in Ancoats, and I just like got rid of all my CDs, and I was like, I kept 10 CDs when we used to listen to CDs, and like 15 books, and it was really hard to do. But then your mind's so much clearer, and I think then I was like, right, what do I really need? So I'm looking at your plants, like, it really makes a difference. That plant is a good thing. So it's not like having nothing, but making sure that everything that you own is there because it brings you joy, and you're not just buying stuff for endlessly things. I think I'm quite an anxious person, so having a nice clutter-free space really makes me feel a lot calmer. So yeah, it's a kind of double-sided thing, I guess.
Does that influence like the kind of places that you like to work? Like, do you work from home ever? Do you?
I can work from home. It's weird. I do my best work in coffee shops, but then obviously some days I feel like I can't keep going to a coffee shop. So I do maybe like one day at home, and then I meet up with a couple of friends, and we generally go to like Foundation Coffee House. And we've tried quite a lot of places actually. I quite like it in there because everyone else is also on their laptop. I've tried some co-working spaces, but I'm allergic to office, as I've realised. So anything that's slightly feels like an office, I just like, I hate it in here. So I haven't found a co-working space yet that is not officey, I suppose. And everyone will probably be like, oh, try this one. So yeah, I think coffee shops for me, I get to really do some great work. And going for a run, and my name Creative Wilderness is because like going for walks, and that's, as a creative person, you get a lot of ideas, and you're not just working while you're sat in front of the computer. And having a shower, I get quite a lot of ideas in the shower. My water bill's gone quite high, and it's not very ethical, so I'm going to have to tone that down. But yeah, so I think different places, but I think at home is probably the hardest place for me to work. But sometimes you just end up, you just feel like, oh, I need to just get on with stuff. So yeah. You
just sort of mentioned running and being outside, and that's the reason we first started talking on Instagram. Is I don't know, wasn't it? Yeah, I don't know how it kind of came into my feed, but you were. I think I was actually looking for places to go in the summer, go wild swimming, and you kind of came up as, I don't know, in my feed somehow, and it was like you were going wild swimming in Stockport, and I was like, there's nowhere and stuff. So I ended up at a lake somewhere else, but it was a really great experience. Not really something I'd done for a long time, and not something I'd done in just like going from home just to go for a swim and then kind of come back. When I've done it before, it's like you could go to a little beach holiday or something, and that's the kind of thing. Or you find it a lot more in like Scandinavian countries where you can just go and swim in like whatever lake. And so like I never really twigged that you could kind of find these places, and I thought that was really interesting as a bit of I can't remember the book that I was reading. This is really bad, like I should have written it down because I knew I was going to talk about it, but he talks about, the author talks about high quality leisure, so like things like going for a run, or it's Digital Minimalism is the book.
Oh, is it Cal Newport?
Yes, Cal Newport, that's it.
I've listened to the YouTube kind of, where he talks through it all. Yeah, okay. He's great as well. He's really good.
Yeah, and that got me thinking. That's when I first got thinking about going for a swim, doing something outdoors, and the idea of like having a camper van or things like that. So, is there anything obviously you've mentioned a couple of things, but what is it in your life that is like the high quality leisure that helps you like separate yourself from, I mean, you've already talked about music, but helps you separate your life from your work?
Yeah. Yoga, so I do quite a lot of Kundalini yoga, running, when I can, and I love going hiking. I'm with a walking group called the Mag Walkers, and you can go out at the weekend, and just like a big group of people go in the Peak District, and yeah, wild swimming. I love going to the sea as well, so if I can go and do that and swim in the sea. So I guess nature is, being outdoors is really important to me. I know it's weird because I live in Stockport, but you're in the city, but that's what I actually love about being here because it can be in the Lake District, it can be in the Peak District, but I don't think I could live there right now in my life, because I think there's so much creativity and connection, and especially being self-employed, I think being in a city like Manchester's so important, and I probably wouldn't have carried on if I was in some random place. I think, and I love meeting other people and making those connections. So yeah, I think we've got it pretty good here with the whole being able to get outside. And I think that I'm struggling with guilt quite a bit about you're not working, you want to do these things, and I'm like, I really want to go swimming instead of work, and then you feel guilty. But then in the summer I was like, every Friday I'm just going to try and go for a wild swim. If it's not raining, I'm going to take Friday afternoon or Friday lunchtime off, and it's only a couple of hours, and then you'd come back and maybe have to do a bit more work, but I think if you make a little commitment like that, and I'm doing this book called The Artist's Way, and it talks about taking yourself like on an artist date, and how actually doing those things really impact on your work. And you might feel bad for taking 2 hours out to do that, but you probably work way better and much harder and come up with so much more ideas than just sat in front of your computer for 8 hours. So I'm quite passionate about reframing how we work. I think I know, because I work differently. I don't do 9 to 5. I can't work really long stretches, and I need lots of different things, and I need to stay inspired because we're all creating. So if I'm not feeling inspired, I know that the work I'm going to be doing for someone else isn't going to be as good as it can be. So I guess it's protecting your creativity and those things, I think, where we're in the state of flow and not thinking about anything else, and living in the moment. They're the things that you need to do. Some people, it might be gardening, or it might be writing or reading, or dancing, or I'm not sure watching TV has come up, but
that's probably
maybe a really intellectual, like arty film.
I guess it depends what you're. There's a lot of things that can be, as long as they're kind of separate enough from what you're doing as a job. If I sat and watching watching like documentaries, it's just research when it comes to it. So does that, how much does, obviously, like your business is called Creative Wilderness, like how much does that sort of outdoor time, that leisure time, how much does that come back into the persona of your business? Like how?
I think, I have a lot of thoughts, maybe about like blogs, or if I'm writing something on Instagram, I might think, oh, that would be something good to write about when I'm walking or I'm out running outside. Luckily, I live near a park, so I can go for a nice run. And then it's been in touch with the seasons, so I think it's inspired designs a little bit. It might be inspired a little bit more by the autumnal colours. I think I take pictures when I'm out and then use them on Instagram through my business. And I think it's generally, if I'm feeling quite stuck about something, or I need to ponder or come up with an idea, I'll go for a walk in the park, and sometimes I've recorded me chatting or something. So I think a lot of the flashes of inspiration happen when I'm outside, not in my house. So I think that's probably, that influences my business. And then the photography that I've had and everything, I guess everything I put out there, it's as a brand, I try and keep it natural and influenced by nature. If I can.
That's why I was asking you that, because the stuff that you do is very like, it feels inspired by nature, but it's not like it's not very, like you said before about being a hippie, but it's not like hippie-ish in any way. It's very modern, but you can feel that like inspiration there. That's like the obviously you do branding for other people. That's what you do. How long did it take to come to that?
At the start, well, I came to my name, which took a long time because you kind of think of a name, and then it came
I've
walking.
got to live with this. I've got to stick with this.
And then I was like, oh, I like the word wilderness because I feel like you kind of you're away from everything. And then some people thought it was a negative thing, but I just think it's a beautiful word in itself. And then I think I don't know how I came up with the creative bit before. I think someone had already got the name wilderness. So then I was like, oh, I need something else before it. And then creative just came in because I felt like that's where I feel my most creative is when I'm out in the wilderness away from everything. And then I guess the name influenced the whole wilderness thing. But then the imagery, I was getting stuff off Unsplash at first. And it didn't quite feel me, but I knew I didn't have the budget then. But then eventually I could get photography done. So I kind of put together a big mood board and a brief. And I always say to people, think of 4 words that you want to describe your brand and ethos, and I think at the time mine was sort of like organic, wild, intuitive, and they've probably changed now, but at the time probably natural, I think it was. So I always think of those words with everything that I'm putting out there and making sure that the photography reflects that and the colours and the way I speak. But then when you know who your business is, it's quite easy. I don't think it kind of comes naturally if you do a bit of that thinking beforehand.
Yeah. Okay. So that leads me. There's a note here that I've got listening to yourself, and I can't really remember why I wrote that.
Oh, like your intuition.
Yeah, your intuition. So. I don't know why that linked to you, but for some reason it did. Is that important to you? Is there something about like that?
Yeah, it's really important. I think now as well, I'm embracing it a little bit more, and I think I used to ignore it in the past because it's like, oh, it's just because you feel a little bit anxious, it's nothing, and then you actually know that is actually something's not quite right. So I think it's just trusting that, and it is this unquantifiable thing that you can't really explain to people unless they understand like how important intuition is. And it's like that gut feeling that we have, there's not just our brain making decisions, we're picking up loads of different things, like there's in an energy in a person and you really click with them or you don't. And I tune into that quite a lot. So like some people I really click with, some people I might feel repelled by, and I'm not quite sure why. And then it kind of becomes clear why you had a bit of a like, oh, I'm not sure about that. Yeah. And that's the intuition, I suppose. And then it's about making business decisions that sometimes feel crazy to other people. But if you think this is right, you go for it, and it might be a big risk, but I think if you listen to your intuition and it's telling you, yeah, this is right, it generally, when I've done that, it hasn't gone wrong. And when I've ignored my intuition and said maybe yes to a job that didn't feel quite right, yes, it's not gone right. And then I think working as well, I try and use my intuition with the person. Maybe it's the question, we have like a chat before I do the branding, so I've had them go like, oh wow, it's like you've got into my head, and I love that. That's really what I want them to say, is kind of like, you've got into my head and you've completely understood what I'm all about. And I think you need a bit of intuition to be able to do that, because it's like empathizing with the other person and like being in tune with them.
Yeah. What did, as you sort of said before, you're an introvert, what did your intuition say when you started Conscious Entrepreneurs?
It was great. It was go for it. Yeah, because I think I tried to think, well, what have I not liked about these events? And I enjoy speaking because if it's and it's helping people. But I think sometimes a lot of people kind of monologue at you when I state that, and it was about listening, I think, to people. So Conscious Entrepreneurs was all right, and then we made sure it was equal. So we did a thing where we pull people's problems out of a hat, so it isn't the loudest person gets chosen, which often happens at things. Yeah. And then we have a timer so that you have 10 minutes on that problem, and we do try and cut people off sometimes because I am very conscious that I've been in meetings in the past, and it's the people who are talking, there's like the quiet person in the room knows the answer, but they don't get to tell it. So I think as an introvert, it's helped to set up something that's friendly to other people. Yeah.
And does that, I mean, there's different types of introvert.
Yeah.
There's because sometimes I feel like I'm an introvert. Sometimes
I just did
this
the thing, and it's like how you get your energy. Because I was like, people are like, oh, you're friendly and chatty. I'm like, no, I think that's a misconception. It's like you just sit in your house all the time and read books. And some people they are super introverted. But if I don't see people for a couple of days, I do feel a bit But I don't really want to hang out. I don't really got a massive group of friends, so I like kind of hanging out one-on-one with people. And I think in the past I used to feel like I was a weirdo for some things, and now I'm like, oh no, it's fine, or if I've gone out for 2 nights I need a day in. I think that's kind of more my understanding of it.
Yeah. And so how does that work with working with clients? Because you said you work quite closely with them, so I guess that is because of that like one-on-one thing. So you want to go and you want to actually talk to them, is that
I mean, we do sometimes, people live far away, so we do it on Zoom, but I don't want people to ring me just like randomly, because it stresses me out. So then I have Calendly, so they book in a time, and I love this app because you can choose. So I have like Tuesday and Thursday all day, they can book in a time, but then I've got days that are protected, because I know if I'm working something creatively, I need to be focused on that and not be worried about chatting. You need to really focus and have space to think. So I've protected my own time in those ways, and then try not to do too many meetings all in one go, I suppose, or if I've got loads of events coming up, try and make sure, next week I won't organise as many meetings, because I get frazzled, and then it's not good for my business, because you've got to protect you've got to protect yourself, I think, from getting to those states.
There's a balance between working directly with the person and actually having that time to go and work on the idea. Yeah. Because the idea doesn't just come, does it? It's
no, and luckily, actually, everyone's been great. I don't really, they just book in and it's fine. Some people just want to do email. So I just think, if you're a person who wants to chat with me, that's great, because I'm here to help you. If you don't want to chat, just email me. And because some people you've got to do it this way. But I think everyone's different. And I know I would work in a different way to someone else. I'm quite happy with just emailing. But face-to-face is also great. And like meeting people for coffee is always nice if they can do.
Yeah. That Calendly thing, that's something I feel like I should get on stuff like that, because I feel like so often, like even like especially now that I've tried to I've carved time out of my week where either I work on personal projects, or I work on stuff, I work on myself. I find these times, and I feel like the only excuse that a lot of people will take is, I can't do that, I'm busy. I feel like that's the easiest one to say to people, and they're like, all right, okay, I understand. You can't just say to some people, oh, I'm not working that day. It's like, you work for yourself, you should be, no, I can't do that. Yeah. So it's good that, it's nice to hear that there's a way out of that. I like, of protecting that time and kind of having that almost automated. That's interesting. Well, I'm going to go on to what I'm going to call actionable extras. This is the first ever of these. These are just things that, little quite quick bits of sort of advice that you can, that people can get from what you do, that hopefully they can kind of put into practice. I mean, you've given a lot of little design process snippets, tips and stuff. But these, I think, hopefully should help people. So you're speaking to someone, they say they've hit a wall with their business, they are thinking of giving it up. What would you say to them, and why would you say that? Okay.
I think for these type of things, well, obviously why have they hit a wall, what reason is from it. I love doing like a vision board for my business and my life, because I feel like it taps into your subconscious. So a vision board is basically, you can collage and you just choose random words and images that really resonate with, say, your business, or you can do it on Pinterest and put it together or anything. But I've done that before, and it's just really helped me see the bigger picture and reminded me why I came into this in the first place, and maybe reignited passions. But it's also uncovered parts that are out of balance. So perhaps you've hit a wall because you're doing the wrong type of work and it's not bringing you joy, and then that joy is not being translated into the type of work you're doing, and people can pick up on that. So that would be one thing, is like a vision board. Or like journaling is great, where you just like stream of consciousness, write out these things, and then sometimes you can get to the answer through that. I think there's quite a lot of great mentor. If you want to pay for help, I think help, really, you need to ask for help a lot of the time. So you could either go to a paid mentor, or there's loads of free schemes, especially in Manchester, business support. So they'll have people who are experts who are giving up their time to help other people come to conscious entrepreneurs, that type of thing. So I think, asking for help is really important. And also, sometimes maybe you don't want it, maybe it isn't for you. I think like people do it and they think, oh yeah, it's going to be a dream. And you know, someone said to me, actually, I miss being in an office every day and having that and that regular paycheck. And if that actually is really, you need it, because you don't realize till you do it. There's absolutely no harm in saying, look, this isn't for me. So think about why you've hit a wall. Try these things, because it might be about something you've gone down the wrong path. Do a little bit of asking questions. Like I've got an ebook that goes through like your brand and what you stand for, and maybe something that you're putting out there isn't resonating with people because it's not the truth, or you kind of got that wrong. And then there are obviously marketing, and there's all the practical things that you can do. Look at your design, look at your website, look at your photography, look at how you're promoting yourself. But I think you've got to work on the essence of it first before you do all that, because if there's something wrong at the start, then those things can't really fix something that's really broken. But yeah, I think we've all got the answers. It's just working out how you can come to those. And if you want, go for a long walk in the countryside. It always helps me.
The second one, someone new to sustainability, mindfulness, or intentionality, what would be one of the first things that they could do that would have the biggest impact on?
I mean, people say like the biggest thing is flying, eating meat, and like obviously plastic is really big, and energy suppliers. So, I mean, we all fly, I suppose. So, do you need to make all those flights? But also, you can make little changes. So, if it's a case of you going out and buying a keep cup and bringing that around with you, so that you don't add to the coffee cups that are thrown away in a bag, that's a really small change. Can you switch to a more green energy supplier? Can you go and support more local businesses when you're buying your fruit and vegetables? Can you cut down? If you eat meat, can you maybe like have a couple of days not eating meat? Other things, like I was saying about choosing where you're investing your money in. But I always think like it can be quite overwhelming. So just pick one or two things at the start, and then eventually you'll be like, oh, I quite like taking my coffee cup. Maybe I'll get something else and start taking some reusable cutlery with me. Those type of things. And then for me, I think because I do quite a lot of yoga, it makes you more mindful. So having a practice like that, or whatever it is it meditation, yoga, running, swimming, drawing, can you tap into that so that the decisions you're making are from a good place? Because I think consumerism often comes because we're trying to fill a hole, and I think when you get into those type of practices, you realize like you don't need to buy stuff, and you don't need to consume as much, and you just cause like less of a footprint on the world, and you care a bit more about it. So I think is that enough tips? Yeah, I feel I waffled a bit on that.
There's plenty there. And the last one, on your perfect most productive day, what would be the ideal first thing you would do in the morning and the last thing you'd do at night?
Well, on my dream day, I'd obviously have my dream camper van. So I'd be like, just had a little trip to the beach somewhere, open up my camper van and I'll be on the beach, maybe go for a little swim, do a bit of yoga and meditation, have a nice breakfast, have a shower. And then I've actually been doing cold showers when I can't go for a wild swim, because that kind of gives you the natural high. It's hell at the time, but really, it really does reinvigorate you, especially if you're feeling in a bad mood or you're feeling really tired and sluggish. So I think having, some type of movement and exercise is great. I have to do that most mornings, really. And then meditation or like a yoga, some type of yoga practice, really good. That's kind of, okay. Waking up in a camper van would be my dream.
Yeah, that's good. Well, thank you very much for being my first guest. It's been great.
It's been really fun.
And hopefully, this goes on, and you come back at some point, and we can get a second one out of you as well.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
Thank you.
Thanks, Sean.
Guys, thank you for watching or listening. I really appreciate that. I appreciate you sticking to the end. I think you should really check out Charlotte on her Instagram and check out her business, Creative Wilderness. I've linked down below the ways to find her. And if you enjoyed this video and you think that you might enjoy insights from other people, please subscribe. The more followers, the more subscribers that I have, the more likes this video gets, the more chance that I'm going to be able to get in front of people who are going to provide you and me with interesting ideas, interesting tips, ways to learn, ways to improve your business and improve your life, which kind of what we're all here for, isn't it? I guess. And also, if you've got anything to say about the format of this show, let me know down in the comments. Feedback will be greatly appreciated. Thank you again for watching. This has been Unsustainable, episode 1. I'll see you next time.